Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. And if you are new, thanks so much for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am talking about the third book that I read for Tuesdays with Toni, which is this fun reading project that I am doing with my friend AJ from AJ Dunn Reads and Writes. We are reading all of Toni Morrison's fiction, all of her novels, in publication order throughout the year 2023. And today we are talking about Song of Solomon. I will leave a link to our introduction videos and to AJ's video for Song of Solomon, along with the playlist in the description box below so that you can check it out and kind of follow along and see what we've done so far. I will also leave our reading schedule in case you want to read along. We would love that. You're welcome to read along with us. Song of Solomon is Toni Morrison's third novel, published in 1977, so 4 years after Sula. And Song of Solomon won the National Book Critics Circle Awards and had been shortlisted alongside people like Joan Didion and Philip Roth. Toni Morrison wrote Song of Solomon after her father George died. And in the foreword, she speaks very lovingly of him and how he loved each of his children. From some of the research that I did to prepare for this entire project, the reading project, the one thing that came up a few times about Toni Morrison's father is an experience that he had as a young boy. He saw two black businessmen lynched on his street, and this was a very traumatic experience for him, and he was always wary of white people. So I will put a picture up actually of Toni Morrison with her mother and her father so you can see them. And I believe the picture is from 1974. And Toni talks about seeking out her father's advice after his death on how to write Song of Solomon. So as soon as I started reading this, I knew that it was different from the previous two books. The Bluest Eye and Sula both had female protagonists. Song of Solomon has a male protagonist. And Toni Morrison said this was a radical shift of the imagination for her. The other noticeable difference, at least for me, was that the writing, although still beautiful and very elegant, it no longer had the same poetic feel and rhythm to it. So this is not a positive or a negative, it's really just an observation. Other similarities are that it has a powerful opening, and names of characters and places are unique and also meaningful. They tell a story themselves. So like the other two novels, Song of Solomon begins with interesting characters and a very captivating scene. So the book begins in the 1930s in a town in Michigan. I don't think it's ever named. We meet an insurance agent named Robert Smith, who goes to the roof of the hospital, Mercy Hospital, and in an attempt to fly, jumps from the roof, taking his own life. While this is happening, at the same time, a black woman named Ruth Foster Dead goes into labor, and she becomes the first black patient at this hospital. And she gives birth to our protagonist, Macon Dead. He's the third. Or Milkman Dead, as he becomes known later on. And Milkman grows up basically surrounded by women, at least it seemed that way. At first I thought he might be a Christ-like figure, but I think it's something different that didn't really happen the way I thought it was going to. He carries the name of his grandfather, who was killed, which was witnessed by his two children. And I wonder if Morrison's father's experience of seeing the lynched men kind of inspired this. I might be reading into it, but maybe. So Milkman's grandfather sought to acquire wealth and didn't really have compassion on anyone around him. And Milkman is very similar. he becomes imprisoned by his parents. And when he hears that there may be gold, he follows in the footsteps of his grandfather. Now, I like what happens here. Without giving spoilers, I will say that his journey becomes a journey of self-discovery and self-understanding. So the themes that Toni Morrison brings into this story is similar to her previous 2 novels as well. So racism, poverty and wealth, abandonment, death, and love. And in Song of Solomon, she also uses flying as a form of escapism and the idea of the need of knowing who we are, discovering our identity. I think it takes more precedence in this story. So racism, poverty, and wealth are, I'm going to say, probably the most obvious. With abandonment, there are a number of characters who either abandon people or who are abandoned. And there are also a number of characters who die, or like Milkman, people who attempt to kill them. So the theme of love in this story was about what it is and what it isn't. And I liked when it talked about some people loving too hard. And at one point she talks about how the clouds love the mountains. And it's described that they are around the mountains all the time, but that they always leave room for the tops to stick out. And I just thought that that was really a neat description. The theme of flying is both taking a plane in fleeing as a flight or fight coping mechanism, which it seems everyone in this story chooses flight. And then there's this idea from the very beginning of people wanting to be able to actually fly. And then the ending. I loved the ending in this one. I won't give a spoiler, but it has to do with flying too. So the thing that I was most intrigued about in this story is the names. So the title itself is a book of the Bible, and there are many biblical characters, Ruth, Pilate, Hagar, even someone named 1 Corinthians, which is another book of the Bible with a famous passage on love and what love is, as well as what divides us. So if you are familiar with these biblical characters, then you can see how their characteristics are presented in the story. There's also Circe from Greek mythology, and then interesting names also that come up for like practical reasons, like No Mercy Hospital, since they wouldn't allow Black people, and the other one is not Doctor Street, since it was the street the Black doctor once lived on, but doesn't anymore. So for me, I think one of the main things about this book is reclaiming. There's the reclaiming of names and the reclaiming of their past and their Black identity, especially if it is something that certain characters like Milkman have tried to kind of push away or avoid. And finally, like the last 2 novels, I found the writing to be very impressive. Even though this book didn't have the same rhythm and lyrical movement to it, the writing is undeniably remarkable. Each sentence is carefully crafted. So I want to share with you an example that Toni Morrison gives in her foreword. And it's a sentence that I would have read and probably understood, but not to the point that she makes. And this is the very first sentence of the novel. And it's, the North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance agent promised to fly from Mercy to the other side of Lake Superior at 3 o'clock. Now, this is how Toni Morrison describes it and what it's all about. She says this, again, it's in the foreword on page Roman numeral 13. This declarative sentence is designed to mock a journalistic style. With a minor alteration, it could be the opening of an item in a small-town newspaper. It has the tone of an everyday event of minimal local interest, yet I wanted it to contain important signs and crucial information. The name of the insurance company is that of a well-known Black-owned company dependent on Black clients, and in its corporate name are Life and Mutual. The sentence starts with North Carolina and closes with Lake Superior, geographical locations that suggest a journey from south to north, a direction common for Black immigration and in the literature about it, but which is reversed here since the protagonist has to go south to mature. Two other words of significance are fly and mercy. Both terms are central to the narrative, flight as escape or confrontation, mercy the unspoken wish of the novel's population. Some grant it, some despise it. One makes it the sole cry of her extemporaneous sermon upon the death of her granddaughter. Mercy touches, turns, and returns to guitar at the end of the book, and moves him to make it his own final gift to his former friend. Mercy is what one wishes for Hagar, what is unavailable to and unsought by Macon Dead Sr., what his wife learns to demand from him, and what the townsfolk believe can never come from the white world. As is signified by the invention of the name of the hospital from Mercy to No Mercy, but the sentence turns as all sentences do on its verb, promise. The insurance agent does not declare, announce, or threaten his act. He promises, as though a contract is being executed between himself and others. He hopes his flight, like that of the character in the title, toward asylum, Canada, or freedom, or the company of the welcoming dead, or home, is interpreted as a radical gesture, demanding change, an alternative way, a cessation of things as they are. He does not want it understood as a simple desperate act, the end of a fruitless life, a life without examination, but as a deep commitment to his people. So I will stop there because I just want to acknowledge that to be able to put this much thought and symbolism and foreshadowing and understanding into one sentence is genius. And from the 3 novels that I've read so far from Toni Morrison, I feel like she does this with every single sentence. Now, of the 3 books so far, this is my least favorite, but in saying that, I still really enjoyed it. I didn't connect to the characters in the same way as I did the others. And at first I had a hard time kind of keeping track and keeping them all sorted in my mind. There's a lot in this story though, and I will be really interested to see, as AJ and I keep reading, if Toni Morrison's novels continue to be novels like this, or if they will be more poetic like the previous 2, or if Toni Morrison has something else in store for us. Our next book is Tar Baby. AJ and I will be reading this and posting our videos on May the 2nd. So if you've been following along, then you may remember that there was a character named Tar Baby in the novel Sula. And I am really curious to see if this book is about that character. I'm hoping that it is, but if it isn't, then I'm still interested to see what Toni Morrison has up her sleeve. So please let me know if you have read Song of Solomon. What are your thoughts? Did you like the characters? Did you like the story? Did you like the themes? I'd love to hear what you think, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.